And then you went to what, the USS?
Well, yeah, our class wasn't starting up for about 6 months, so they stuck me on the USS Paul Revere at 32nd Street, waiting for UDT training. And I was a designated seaman. Back in the day, a designated seaman was pretty good. Wasn't like it is now. And I figured I'd work in the radio shack or something like that. Well, as soon as they checked aboard, they put me mess cook, and I was down in the scullery. And when we went down there were 2 other guys that were waiting for training too that were in the scullery. So we sat there and did that for 6 months and got off the ship and went next door, across the bay there to training.
Yeah, that's something in the Navy. It's if you're a new guy, everyone talks about how new guys get treated wherever you are in the military, but in the Navy, when you show up to a ship, doesn't matter. You have to work in the scullery, which is washing dishes. What is it? A 90-day stint you got to do in there?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much 90 days. And you only don't do that if you're an E4 and above.
Right.
And I did a deployment where we had a guy that was a SEAL, but he was an E3, and he was saying, "Hey, wait, how am I going to get out of this? Doing the scullery duty?" And we were like, "You're not. That's the rules.
No,
and you're going to go do it."
You can do it. I was a senior chief, 2 of us, a guy named, a real good friend of mine. We couldn't get our flight back, so they put us on an ARG to float back here to San Diego. And we kept all of our guys from doing the mess cook, and that were seamen.
That's
because
legit.
we just went, we got stuff to do. We're doing training, and they haven't got time to do that.
Yeah.
So we kept them out of. Of course, I was a senior chief then, and so we had a little pull.
Yeah.
Plus the cob of the boat, he really liked us a lot, and the CMC, and he was a PBR Vietnam guy, so we got along really well. Yeah.
Yeah, well, and actually this kid ended up making E4, luckily, before we went on deployment, so he skated out of it. But I remember...
we still did bringing in the supplies and stuff like that, because it was a good workout.
Yeah, we
I
did
forget
that
what
too.
they call that, unreps.
Unreps, yeah. We did that too.
Yeah.
So my first deployment, I deployed to Guam. And, we just did whatever we wanted. I was 21 years old. It was completely insane. You got all this per diem money. You felt like the richest. You were the richest guy you ever met. I mean, you never made any money when you're in 16, 17 years old. You get in the SEAL teams, you're getting all this money. And then they go overseas and they're giving you per diem. Mm-hmm. And so you're the richest dude in the world. You have very limited responsibilities because you're a new guy in a SEAL platoon. So what do? Just get crazy and get after it. And... you're doing whatever you want. And then my next deployment was on a ship. And we pull into the first port. And they say, E4 and below, Liberty expires at 10 o'clock. And I was like, oh, yeah, whatever. I'm a SEAL. And they're like, no, actually, you'll be back on the ship at 10 o'clock. And there was no way around it. I mean, there was ways around it. We found ways around it. You know what the way around it was? What? I'd put my PT gear in a backpack. And then go off the ship to go out, whatever, and then hang out all night until 5 o'clock in the morning. And I'd put my PT gear back on. I'd run, get a sweat going to walk up the brow at whenever I was coming back and say, yeah, I was just out for a run. Got my ruck on. So there was ways. Sure. There was ways to make it happen. Mm-hmm. So speaking of guys from when you were going through training, was there guys... When you're going through Bud's training, was there Korean vet UDT guys in there? Was it World War II? Was it just Vietnam guys, the early Vietnam guys?
Our instructors?
Yeah.
Oh, there were World War II guys. There was one guy named, God damn it, great big tall guy, crew cut. And
he was a World War II UDT guy.
Well, let me tell you the story on that guy. So we're out at, we just get to San Clemente, the last part of the training, third phase, so we're all lined up there. We just got off. We went out there on an LCU, with all of our demo and ammo and all that other crap, and we just mustered out there, and this guy comes walking up, great big tall guy, real old. What was I, 19, 18, you know what I mean? And he looked probably like you do or I do. We thought he was an old guy.
Oldest guy you've ever seen.
Yeah, but he looks at us and he starts talking, and he goes, God damn it, I'm your demo instructor, and keeps talking. He says, I don't brook no bullshit on the ranges, and we're kind of just looking at him like, what the hell? And he gets himself worked up a little bit, and he goes, Matter of fact, anybody that screws up, we'd just go out behind the shitter and get it squared away, you know, and we're still looking at him. He talks a little bit more and gets himself all excited and shit. And he goes, matter of fact, anybody wants to go out behind the shitter right now, we'll go, you know. We're just looking, well, come to find out later on. Was in the 82nd Airborne and jumped into Normandy.
Oh, damn.
Got captured, escaped, on and on. And then he was in the Korean War, too. That was one of our instructors. Almost all of them there were in the Korean War, you know, pretty much. But then we had another guy, and on his jacket he wore, he had a UDT instructor. On the other side was God. You know, he was a hook-nosed Indian Apache, and he was a badass dude, man. We had some great guys. And most of the instructors, were, and some were Vietnam guys, you know, like had this one blue-eyed guy. He was... I can't think of his name right now either, but he was on vacation, was paddling up north in on the Columbia River. So, no, not that north, the East Coast side. And he was on an excursion with some other people, and his canoe tipped over. And it was real cold and shit, and he was trying to swim a couple of them to shore and shit, and just went out. But this guy would run behind you. And of course, we didn't have a lot of hair, but what we had stood up, you know, and you turn and look, and there he was just staring at you. He had these blue eyes, you know. I'll think of his name in a minute. Real good guy, though.
And there must have been, because Bloods is pretty regimented now, but they must have had it was definitely less regimented when I went through, for sure. It must have been completely just like no rules when you went through.
No, we had this guy during Hell Week. He had what they called the swimmer line. And like I say, we're on the bay side. Mm-hmm. Mind you, we were in training in January, started 3 January, something colder than God, you know. What he would do is he'd have us hook into what we call the flutterboard line. Mm-hmm. You know, like when you do recons, the guys hold on the line, you move down the line and stuff. And he'd send us all out. And hell, there was about 60 of us, excuse my language.
That's a big,
about 60 of us. He'd send us out, and we had to be in a straight line. If we weren't, he'd bring us all back and line us all up again. And we weren't straight, so he sent us out again, brought us all back in, and we're freezing. The guys are almost getting hypothermia because we're just in a K-POC and, you know, regular utilities that you wear for training. You know? So he sent us out again the third time. And like if you're on the bitter end line, you're screwed, you know. Then he brought us back in. He goes, well, goddamn, I guess it still wasn't very. You guys still weren't in a straight line, and we're gonna have to send you out again all the way down the line. All you heard was click, 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 click. We just looked at him. Well, all right, we got other things to do. That was it. We were done, man. I mean, you'd have lost the whole class. That was so cold.
Yeah. People always, if you don't know California and you think California is like Baywatch, the old TV show, and you think the water's all warm, it's not warm. It's not warm, especially in January. January 3rd, it's not going to be warm. And you were saying you guys were swimming like crazy going through that because you knew that you were going to UDT at that time.
Well, you're a frogman. That's what you're being trained for, not SEALs. So we did a lot more water work than you guys did going through BUDS. Because we didn't have the SEAL portion of it. Mm-hmm. We got that after we made our deployment, came back, went in SEAL team, then you went into cadre. Yeah.
Did you get any land warfare at all in BUDS?
Oh, yeah, a little bit. It was more basics? Like, basic stuff and little immediate IEDs, but immediate action drills, but not much. It was like our last stop that we had, I think I told you this, on San Clemente was we did swimmer scouts in on the other side of a rock formation we called Birdshit Rock and got to the island. They gave us all the 40-pound haversacks, and we went from there all the way 23 miles to the other end of the island.
Wait,
blew up something.
You were walking?
Yeah.
Okay, so you humped 23 miles after you swam over the beach.
Yeah, and then came back and attacked the camp. That was our last stop.
Dang. That's a crappy patrol, too. Those cactus and stuff.
I know.
Yeah, that's a.
And I was small. I thought I was pretty smart. See, so I wore a kind of a wetsuit. What do you call that? The small one, you know?
Oh, like a wetsuit top,
cheater,
like a cheater top.
And because so I wouldn't freeze to death coming in. And actually, this was April, almost the end of April, and it was still cold out at San Clemente, So we swam in, and I humped with that thing on all the way up there, and it got sunny and warm, and I almost friggin' died. And by the time I got back, you could peel it off me like this,
Yeah. There's no good way to do it. There's like no good way to handle coming over the beach. No. It's not going to be convenient. You're not going to be comfortable. That's one of the things that makes, in my opinion, one of the things that makes the SEAL team, the guys in the SEAL teams really good is that we just have to deal with the water. And as soon as you're dealing with the water, like you just said, there's no easy way to do that. Like you're going to either be freezing in the water or you're going to be sweating on land or you're going to be too hot. No, actually you're not. You're going to be okay on the land. You're just screwed is what I'm saying. And not to mention your weapons. Your weapons your radios all get jacked up. Your weapons all get jacked up. Your gear gets all jacked up. You got sand in your boots. There's no good way to deal with it.
No, there's not.
And on top of that, the communications. Like you're in the water, you can't talk to people. You can't. There's no radios aren't working. It just everything sucks. And so when we would do ops dry, it just seems like it's so easy to do. And I think that's the one big thing that separates. It doesn't separate us, but it's one of the things that makes us good is that we have to deal with the water, and we deal with it our whole career.
Well, bottom line is you should never bring a boat to shore. You always swim in.
Yep.
That's what we do.
Yep.
Just like swimmer scouts, the whole 9 yards.
Yep.
That's the bottom line. When I was a chief, I was pretty hard on that stuff. We never brought the boats ashore. You know what I mean?
We did the same thing when we were in the ARC platoon. Mm-hmm. We never brought the boats in because there's a 10, 15, maybe 20% chance that you're going to flip a boat, you're going to lose a boat, something's going to happen to a boat, and then you're screwed. Now you got a boat washing up against the shore, and you got to deal with it, and it's a big. No, we always swam in.
It's a big target.
Yeah, for sure, sure.
Like in Desert Storm, when we inserted those Kuwaitis, the officer, I won't mention any names, but wanted to bring both the boats in, and into Kuwait and let the Kuwaiti guys off, and I went, no. Keep at least, if you're going to do that, keep one boat back, even if you keep another boat on shore, because they can give covering fire. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then if they have to E&E, and you can be seen. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's a big target. You know what I mean? You just don't do that.
No, there's so many things you got to figure out with the water. Yeah. And when you go, that's why when we were in Iraq and we rarely did boat ops, we did some in the river, but. You're just either on foot. It's just everything is so much easier. It's crazy. Yeah. It's crazy. You get done with training. Cinco de Mayo, 1967. You get done with training and you check into UDT 12. And you didn't really know too much about the SEAL teams. I guess no one at that time knew much about the SEAL teams.
No, not much at all. No.
And you were saying on that first podcast that we did that the platoons weren't really formed up yet. You kind of showed up at UDT and it's kind of a loose situation. But you do a workup.
Oh, once we started working up, then it was regimented. You knew what you had to do. But we had a while. They had just come back and relieved UDT 11 had just deployed, and then 12 came back, and you have a kind of a stand down for about a month or two.
Oh, so that's what you showed up for?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's a 9-month deployment for UDTs. So you have about a 6 months workup. And then you have 3 months where the guys go on leave, school, stuff like that. And I came in just at that time.
Got it.
So it was really kind of like we'd go up and do what they call silver slippers up at Pendleton when the Marines would do amphibious landings, and we'd be the lifeguards and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Until we started forming up and started working, then it got pretty good.
What did you guys do? Were they hardcore about PT back then?
Oh yeah.
Would you guys do team PTs?
Yep.
Platoons or team?
Team.
The whole team?
Yep.
And was it just
every day?
Was it the same? Was it flutter kicks, push-ups, pull-ups, dips?
It was your basic PT. In fact, I didn't start lifting weights until I was in about 15 years, maybe 16, 17 years, because you do old course swimming, all the PT we did and everything. We were in really good shape. I mean, you know what I mean? And you didn't see a lot of the guys in the gym lifting heavy and stuff. That came on later on. Then also, which I changed when I was a chief and a senior chief and stuff, and even, no, not as an LPO, we still did platoon PT every morning. But we'd do it every other day, then let the guys go off and do their running, do their weightlifting and stuff like that. And it worked out well. you can change, even though I thought PT in the morning first thing is the best to do.
Yeah.
Especially when we were in Subic and, about half the guys would be throwing up and stuff when we were doing PT.
Yeah, I always liked, we used to, at Team 1, when I got to Team 1, there was that Team PT we did every day, and Team 2 is the same thing. But, I'll tell you, once the war started, there's a lot less focus on PT, and it just was. Guys were staying in shape.
On where you are too, Jocko. You can't really go for long runs and shit when you're in the rock and shit.
Yeah, we'd run around base and.
But did you guys have my question is, did you take weights with you? Did you have a workout place and stuff? Yeah,
we deployed, and actually, once one team shows up somewhere on deployment, they all bring a bunch of gear.
Yeah,
and then there's enough to get it done, and then. Other teams, they don't have to bring everything, but they'll bring more stuff. And eventually, whatever compound you're in is pretty nice.
If you just go to that same compound,
yeah. And I brought mats for jiu-jitsu. I'd make a little jiu-jitsu area so I could still,
of course,
so I could still train and get the boys training. And what's funny too is like you were talking about. It's weird how some of this stuff stays. Because you were talking about walking around in UDT shorts and coral boots. And unfortunately, UDT shorts, I don't think guys wear them. I don't think they even get issued them anymore. But when I got to Team 1, we absolutely got issued UDT shorts. And that was our uniform. And we got issued coral booties, those old gray coral booties. And I didn't realize, that's what you guys wore. That's something that they've probably been issued for, I don't know.
Even out in town, you'd see guys with coral boots on with their Levi's and their Rolex watch and stuff. You know what I mean? You could pick out a team guy in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I looked up coral booties and I was just seeing if anybody makes them anymore. They're hard to get. They're on eBay. You got to buy a pair on eBay. And you got to be lucky if they have your size. Yeah. I got to go through my gear and see if I still have my coral booties. But and then you did do a legit workup though. Where you did all your hydro recons.
Oh yeah, we did
stuff.
river recons, like up the coast by Pendleton. We drug this one rocket-looking thing in up over these fucking mountains and put it in the lake and stuff like that. And then we swam across the. Did we swim? No, we didn't. Right there at the channel when it goes out, and you have those old gun emplacements and shit. Yeah. We had to attack those, and they had them set up with booby traps and stuff. So we'd go across and work our way up and shit like that. Always stuff, in UDT. It wasn't bad. It was good training. I mean, but it wasn't. This, like a story I told you was during the 67, 68 TET. We were in Dongtam. On the Ascari, and that's when I was with UDT, and there were about 17 of us on there. We were doing that dart thing later on, getting that a little bit more, but that's when we worked with the 9th Infantry and stuff. And anyway, they had a SEAL platoon in Mito, which wasn't too far away, but it was right in the town. Why the East Coast would have their place in a town, I'd never know, because anytime you left or went anywhere, you know what I'm saying, you could be picked out. But anyway, so they were almost getting overran, but they were on the tallest building. They had a 57 recoilless rifle and stuff. Anyway, they sent a call out, hey, we need help. And there were 17 of us, on the Ascari, UDT guys. We wanted to go in and rescue them and save them. And our officer, just a great guy, lieutenant, said, no, you ain't going anywhere. We were so pissed.
How would you gotten in there? Helicopter?
We don't know.
Don't even know.
We just wanted to go and help them. Big cars, just ready to go. Yeah. They're SEALs, but they're UDT guys too. So anyway, we didn't do that, and I got back from deployment when the SEAL team went to the cadre.
And those guys, by the way, they didn't get overrun.
They fought them off. They were coming up the stairways and they were throwing grenades down at him and stuff like that. And then finally the ARVN and the U.S. came in and took Mito back over. It was during the 67, 68 TET, which was real bad. But anyway, so when I got back and I went through cadre and stuff, I found out, we weren't ready for this. We didn't know any immediate action drills. And, well, not a lot. Not limited. Not pounded into our head where we'd automatically think about them. And
did you do any urban environment whatsoever?
That's what I was going to say. Yeah. Plus, we weren't urban, and that was urban.
Yeah.
We'd had our asses handed to us,
Yeah,
because we didn't know we were fighters. We'd have fought, but figure those guys in Mito, the VC and stuff. They had their shit together. That was their town and stuff. You know what I mean? Yeah. You know more about the urban stuff than I do because I never fought urban, We'd hit hooches and stuff like that, but we never swept through. We did one village one time, but it was, it was good. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And so when you deployed with UDT, did you guys ride a ship over there? Did you fly over there? How'd you get to Vietnam?
We flew over to Subic Bay, and like I said, that's where we were at. That's like you went to Guam.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Subic was our place, Subic Bay, and then we'd fly over to. We had different debts that we had in Vietnam. Like in Da Nang, they had Camp Tin Sha, and from Da Nang you'd work up and around Phu Bai, Hue, Quang Tri, Dung Ha, the northern part of the area and stuff, And then we got on the Daishinko, and I don't know if we picked the Daishinko up at Subic or not. We might have. And then when we did all them beach recons. And then the next debt I went to was down in Dong Tam on the.
Would you go back to Subic in between at all?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, really?
And we'd be there for about a month or 3 weeks, and then
so
we had to
basically deploy from Subic out to Vietnam, do operations for a month, then go back to
3
Subic.
months.
Oh, for 3 months at a time.
3 months at a time, yeah.
Oh, but it's a 9-month deployment.
Yeah. So, my 3 debts were Da Nang, then on the Daishinko, and then down in Dong Tam when I was in UDT, and that was 3 months at each place.
And first of all, on the last one you talked about doing 130 miles worth of beach recon.
It was about 120, I think. Yeah,
I'll give you the bonus 10, Roger.
It was 3 months. I mean,
But you were kind of talking about it like, we were doing this recon, but that was you were reconning beaches in North Vietnam.
No, South
Vietnam.
Yeah.
And was there any resistance? Were you guys in jeopardy of getting rolled up, or was it more of like almost an admin thing, or was it somewhere in between?
No, we always had either Marines or the ARVN, which was the South Vietnamese Army. They would put screens out when we would do the beaches to cover us in case we got hit with anything.
Right.
Because nobody knew what was really on the beaches and stuff. But if the Marines were in the area, they'd send a patrol and they'd work the back shore and stuff as we were doing our recon and stuff. And the one I told you we got hit was we didn't have any Army or Marines, so we sent 2 of our guys in the back to kind of check things out as we were doing our recon, and that's when we got almost caught in that L-shaped ambush. And what happened was, as we were coming down the beach, and we had the guys out, and I was a photographer, so I was out front with another guy, and I had a pair of bathing suit UDTs on, coral booties, and my super slate, and I was writing the backshore information down.
So everyone knows what we're talking about. When you're going to land people on beaches, or if you're potentially going to land people on beaches, you have to do a reconnaissance of the beach, but not just of the beach itself, but of the water and how deep the water is, and make sure there's no obstacles in there. And so the people that did this since World War II was the underwater demolition teams. So that's what we're talking about. And the way you do it is you have you have a line, a big rope. It's small. It's more like a line than it is rope, but that stretches from the beach, from a couple guys on the beach called the beach party, all the way out to a boat, a small little rubber boat.
Well, sometimes,
way out at sea.
And then that was an IBS we hooked it to, and it's about 30 feet. It has knots where each pair is going to be holding on to, and you take the sounding. Then as you went to the next sounding, which was 25 yards down the beach, and on the beach they'd be holding up these markers so that you could get yourself on them. You'd be doing down until you got to that point again, then you'd take your sounding again. Then you'd come back and make a hydrographic chart.
So there's guys on the beach that are holding what we call range markers, and they're set, what are they set, like 10 yards apart, like one guy in the front, one guy in the back, and they're looking at a compass so that they're making sure that they're lined up, so that lines up this whole line. So it's this kind of complicated, and it seems like an administrative thing, but you got to do it. Otherwise, you get a situation where the Marines come into land and they hit
like they did,
like they did in Tarawa, and they hit a reef, and then they drop the ramps. The guys get out, and they didn't know that reef was only 10 feet long. Right. It's 2 feet deep, but now on the other side of the reef, their guys are going into 10, 12, 15 feet of water and drown. So that's why you have to actually be fairly precise, or at least as precise as you can be when you're doing this hydrographic reconnaissance.
you have the backshore party, the two guys there,
Right.
and you have the officer and a couple other guys picking up the stakes, putting the stakes out, and that's usually a cartographer's job. You're way out ahead of everybody else, taking the backshore information, so when you come back and do your hydrographic chart, you can lay it out exactly. Then you have to do it with Leroy pen. I was a cartographer. I know all this shit, so which I hated.
Because you had to hand draw the maps. You're hand drawn that, and those charts that you draw, you're going to present. Those are going to get presented to the Navy, and they're going to use those charts to conduct this landing. So, like I said, they got to be good. Got to be good quality.
Yeah. Anyway, so our two guys were walking along, and we were doing our beach reconnaissance and everything. Well, they had an L-shaped ambush on us. And they had a spider hole back here with a couple of guys that once we got hit, and if anybody ran back, these guys would hose them down. Well, our two guys hit those two guys in the spider hole and opened up on them, which made them open up on us sooner. So we all leapfrogged back down the beach, and we had really a great guy. I mean, he took charge. Everything was perfect. We grabbed onto the line. The boat, IBS, took off, and 9.5 horsepower engine didn't go real fast, Then we had a Coast Guard cutter out there. They started lobbing in Willie Peter on them, but we didn't know it was them, and some of it landed pretty close to us, and we thought that was them trying to hit us. Anyway, we got out far enough, and our PL that we finally got to and got on, PL's the boat that that we inserted off of and stuff. And they picked us up, and the guy was shooting his 50 and stuff. But what was really neat was in come these two jets.
Oh, nice!
And they napalmed the whole beach. that was kind of cool. That's when I told you when I got back to the boat, I said, "Screw this naked warrior shit."
Yeah, I can't. So you're in a pair of UDTs. Coral booties.
Coral booties. That's like what? Like reef walkers. Those little.
They're like Converse Chuck Taylors.
Yeah,
but a little bit leaner.
Do they have the split for the?
No.
It was
They're
solid,
like they're just like Converse
they were
Chuck
coral
Taylors.
boots, so you could walk on coral and not get cut
but
up.
Would it hold you down? They're not big boots.
No.
They
were light. They were canvas, and they had a kind of a real thick rubberized bottom on it. Yeah, they were good. And then I had an M79, so I'm shooting that thing as I'm running back and stuff.
Then that's the only weapon you had is an M79.
Yeah, that's all I had. Yeah,
that and your slate to draw on.
Yeah,
collect backshore information.
Yeah. That was kind of exciting.
And was that before you was that recon before you worked with the 9th Infantry?
Yeah. Okay, I went from there, from the Daishinko down to Dongtam, and worked with the 9th Infantry.
And the 9th Infantry, man. So this stuff, I was looking about the 9th Infantry and what they did, but just first of all, the 9th Infantry is the unit that the fictional character Forrest Gump was supposed to be attached to, which is why in the movies working by the water and all that stuff. I imagine that's why they picked it. The 9th Infantry in Vietnam had 10 Medal of Honors awarded to soldiers and 3 sailors. So they were working in conjunction very closely with the Brown Water Navy, which, again, to pull a quote from the last time you were on, Roger, you were like saying that job as being Brown Water Navy was just vicious job.
I
vicious job. And General Westmoreland said that the 9th Infantry Division and the Mobile Riverine Forces saved the Delta region from falling to the North Vietnamese during Tet.
That could have been. I mean, I wasn't on land with them. Don't know everything they did. Remember, I was a second class then, and we were on the Askarian Benawa as reconnaissance guys.
What's the Askarian Benawa? What is that?
They were APDs.
What's that?
Amphibious.
Some kind of an amphibious ship?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Both of them were big ones. And troop ships. One was a troop ship. I think the Askari was a troop ship. I'm not sure. Could have been the Benawa too. But they were pretty good sized ships, and they were right at Dongtam, which was the Dongtam had a big army base and a navy base. And my third trip to Vietnam, I went back there as a SEAL, and it was a same place, same area.
So how did you guys get linked up with the 9th Infantry?
Well, we that's who we were doing the reconnaissance for, to see if they could go up the canals and up the rivers, see what the depth was, so they could bring the Brown Water Navy up there, that the troop carriers and stuff like that for the 9th Infantry. And they didn't know what the depth of some of the places they were going to go in, so they dropped us off on these, we called them the darts. They were like a jet ski,
Right.
except you didn't sit up on them, you laid down on them, used your feet to guide them. And they had a 355-degree camera and a fathometer. And they would take 2 of us up, drop us off, and we'd come down and do the reconnaissance. Take soundings and take pictures of known point, like a pagoda or another canal coming in or something. We'd come back and we'd do a chart. And we'd give it to them, and that's what they used, those charts, to go up and do their amphibious landings. But you could only go up down those things maybe once or twice, and then you didn't do it again because they'd be waiting for you. So when we weren't doing that, which you could only do so many of them, then we started riding with the 9th Infantry as their demo guys.
And so would you have already seen it because you'd do the DART mission? And then you'd come back, and then they'd come up with their plan, and then they'd say, "Okay, we're going to go up that river that you just came down." And so would you be familiar with it now?
No, they took us. We went up to Four Corners and other places that we'd never been.
Oh, okay.
That was deep enough for them to go up and stuff, but they might have. I don't know. That would have been John Odish, my LT. That would have probably been in on the planning when they were going to go in something and talk about our charts and stuff.
Right.
Remember, I was just a booger eater. I was just one of the guys in the darts.
But then they said, "Okay, we're going to need you." What were the log? I know you were saying on the last podcast that they had these log dams at the.
Oh yeah, they'd put dams across logs and to stop the boats up, and just different obstacles and shit, or bunkers along, and we'd go in and blow up the bunkers or blow up the log dams, if they had them. And that's what I said. They first put us on what they called an alpha boat, which was the lead boat, and they had one in the rear and one in the front. And what would they look like? God, I don't have a picture of it. I could show you.
Yeah, I actually
anybody looks up on the 9th Infantry, they'll be able to see them.
Yeah.
But anyway, the Alpha boat, we were on one of those, and that's the one I told you we got sunk on, because a B-40 rocket hit us right in the exhaust, and the thing started going down, and we ran it to shore. If it had been a little bit higher, it hit all those stacks of C4 we had. And then they started putting us on about the 3rd or 4th boat back.
That's because they didn't want the big demo load in the front Alpha boat. Yeah, that makes sense.
Pretty much,
Figured that one out. So your boat gets hit with a rocket, and it starts sinking, and then was it like a chief running the boat?
No, it could have been.
Like
I
a
didn't
chief
know
or a
exactly
first class
who
or
they were.
something?
Yeah, and they ran us up, and then it started sinking down, and we got off, did a little perimeter, and then a Zippo boat came up and just hosed everything down, and we swam over to the Zippo boat and got off.
The Zippo boat,
It's
named because after the Zippo lighter, because it has a flamethrower on it,
Yes,
a big
right,
giant
exactly, yeah.
flamethrower.
I know I popped this stuff off like people know what it is. You'd had to been there to see it, but it came zipping up, and then we swam over to it, and we got on it and got out of there.
And you got everyone out of there?
Yeah, nobody got hurt or killed on that, just that B-40 rocket. They started opening up, but the boats opened up too, and they had 50s, Jesus Christ, 20
Did you try and salvage any of the demo, or did you just leave it?
Well, actually,
Or did you blow it in place?
we were going to come back and do that, but they decided to have EOD do it. So EOD went back and blew the boat up and all that crap. So
Yeah.
because it was just partly out of the water and stuff. But they, pissed us off. We're underwater demolition. It was like, WTF, we could do that, That's what we do,
Yeah.
Well, the EOD guys, I guess they didn't have a lot to do, so they sent them down there.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was Army or Navy EOD, but
Who knows?
So
It's
anyway.
always good to blow things up. That's one of my first deployment to Iraq. We didn't blow very much up, and when I went to my second deployment to Iraq, I kind of had the attitude as if we had the opportunity to blow something up, we were going to blow it up. It seems like the smart thing to do.
you never take it apart, blow in place.
Blow it in place. And that one, on the last podcast, you were talking about that one operation that you went on, and it was basically a giant ambush against the whatever 7 or 8 boats that you guys had, that the 9th Infantry had, and they must have been prepared, waiting for you guys for this group to show up? I mean, was the enemy that well organized at that point?
I wouldn't say well organized, but when you got PSYOPs guys dropping pamphlets in saying, we may be doing something in this area, all the good guys leave and stuff like that. And, PSYOPs had a lot to play with that, or choppers going around with their speakers and, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, that particular one, there was another group of boats that went up ahead of us, dropped off their guys, the 9th Infantry, and were coming back, and we passed them. And as soon as we got by them, I'd say about 10 minutes, and we got opened up on. They didn't hit the first group; they just hit our group. And that was a bad day in Dodge City, but it got hit really bad. But we managed to get to the shore and put some of the guys off and stuff. And I think it was going to be a pincher movement where they came in and caught people because they dropped the other guys way off. And there were 3 UDT guys on that group, and then there was 3 of us on the group that when we got hit.
And your main mission was going to be demo if needed.
Yeah, basically, yeah. But
yeah. Those big. It's weird. Those are like straight up amphibious operations the Army's conducting.
Yeah, think about that. And the Marines are holding the DMZ.
Yeah. You were saying that the Marines were busy upholding the DMZ at that time.
Yeah, that kind of blew me away. But the 9th Infantry did a good job.
Yeah.
I mean, they were fighters, and they were out of Washington, the state of Washington, and they were good troops.
Yeah.